Hello everyone, get ready for a heapin' helpin' of homework advice for this week, Unit 11, starting now. Okay, this homework assignment involves us getting the gist of a song. What does that mean exactly? Well, basically when the program runs, it's going to look like this. When the program runs, you will first input a song. Then you will input an artist, and then it will return, after it gets done doing its API thing, the sentiment of the song. So with the lyrics that it got back. So basically what it's doing is it's using Music Match to find the title and artist of the song. It's getting the lyrics. Then with the lyrics, it's running Azure Sentiment Analysis to figure out if it's positive, negative, or neutral. And then it's pulling out key phrases from the lyrics. So these are the key phrases from that song. And that song is considered negative. Most songs, you'll see the sentiment on the songs are considered negative. Let's try another one here. Let's try something a little less typing. Up. Let's see what this says. This is a negative song about, and then these are all the words. Birkin bag is on there, and face bomb, of course, and tight abs. Okay? So that gives you an idea of how the program should work when it's done. Let's talk about what it takes to make something like this happen. So first and foremost, you are going to need access to the Music Match API right here. This API provides access to artists and songs, which are called tracks. And then within a track, you can get the lyrics. And for free, you can get 30% of the lyrics. And that should be enough to prove the concept. You know, if you can get access to 100% of the lyrics, it'd be much better. But whatevs, right? So here's where you go to sign up. This is 100% on you. This is not something I will walk through with you. You have to sign up for this API. You have to figure out how to call the API. The API in Music Match has a Swagger definition, very similar to what you saw with IST256's API. And you can go down and try any one of these API calls. Okay? And you can't try it until you first enter your API key here, which you get when you register. And then secondly, this one requires a track ID, which I don't have. So I probably need to do something like search, right, to find a song title, right? And so let's see what I need to do this. So in here I can put in a query for a title, a track title. I will put in up again, and then an artist. I'll put those in there, and then hit try it out. Okay. And it got a response of 200. Okay. And I have a response code of 401, which the 400 means I made a mistake. 401 specifically means unauthorized. And the reason I can't call this API yet is I still haven't put in my API key. So I'm going to pause the video, put in my API key, because you need to get your own API key. And then after I come back, I'm going to show you that it does work. Okay, now resuming, you'll see that I have entered my API key because I have a little blue light over here. I put in up Cardi B, go down here, hit try it out, and then I get a response back that is a 200, and I have in here the track list and the track ID. And the track ID is what I need. The track ID is what I need in order to get the lyrics. Okay? So basically that's it. Now this format here that you want in here, you don't want JSON-P for your format, you want JSON. JSON-P is what's called a callback format. That's not what we're interested in. We're interested in JSON format. So make sure you pick that. And then your response, let's see if we get it working here. JSON. I get no content. Let's see, let me go back to JSON-P again. All right, I'm getting a response now. Okay, but you definitely do not need JSON-P. You want your response format to be JSON instead. So make sure you set that. And I don't want a callback here. See this callback? I want to take that out. I don't want that. So that's why it wasn't working before. I want JSON and no callback. And then it should work. Okay. So you want to enter a Q track and a Q artist, and you want to enter in your API key, and then you want to enter in the format, and that should be enough to get your calls to work. Now, once you know that your calls work, you'll have to translate those into Python requests, right? But you remember from before that when you call anything with Python requests, it's always, how am I going to get the URL, right? So what's that URL going to be? So if I go back over here, I can look at a sample call. There it is right there. Well, that's my URL. Then I got to build my query string. How do I know I need a query string here? Well, I just got to read those docs. Parameters. If you look, they end up dropping on the query string. Format, JSON, track, artist, right? API key. All right. And by doing that, I should get a response back. Okay. So I will have to go over here, put in my query string. Things that go in the query string are, title, artist, API key, format. You don't forget format, JSON. Okay, you need that along with other things, right? And then you are going to do your response, request get, right? Get. And in here, I'm going to put the URL, the params on the query string. And then I'm going to say response raise for status. And then I will say, in this case, I'm asking for tracks, right? So tracks response JSON. And then you'll have to take a look and see what's in tracks, and figure out how to parse through that data structure to get out the track ID. Because in order to get the lyrics, if you look under here for lyrics, to get the lyrics, you must provide a track ID here. So let me see if I can get this to work with a track ID. Let me go back up to this one. I'm going to just put this callback back in here so I can see what happened. And JSON-P. And then down in here, let's see if we can find that track ID. Track list. Track ID right there. See that? So if I take that out of the JSON and then go down to this one and put in that track ID, I should get back. Well, I think I got to put, to have it appear in here, apparently I need to put the callback in here, but you don't need this when you're doing it in Python. This is just to make this little goofy UI work. Okay. I'm not getting any response back for that, which is interesting because I know it works because I've done the example myself. Okay. But anyway, that would be the proper way to format it. Is you need to put in that track ID, and then you need to put in your API key, and then you need to put in format JSON. Okay, no callback. You don't need that callback. Okay. So what I will do is I will give you the top down, and then it's up to you to write each of the bits of the top down. Okay? So this is going to be a very different way of helping you with this particular program. So I want you to think about it this way. We're going to, if we look at the main thing, we're going to do like, we're going to have from IPython widgets, right? Import interact manual. And then we're going to have, I'm going to take all this out. Actually, yeah, I'll take it out. You've probably seen it all now. And then we're going to say interact manual, and we're going to have to put in a song or a track if you want, and an artiste, and then we're going to have our def lyric sentiment, and I need a track and an artiste to do that. And what am I going to do in here? Well, I'm going to say C algorithm. So let's see. So our inputs, a track and artist. Outputs, sentiment, and key phrases for lyrics of track. Algorithm. The first thing we need to do is we need to get the track ID given the title, the track name, and artist. Okay. Once we have that track ID, we can then get the lyrics. Get lyrics using track ID. So this is with music match. And this one uses a music match. Then, after we get the lyrics, we're going to have a big blob of text for our lyrics. We are going to use Azure Sentiment to get sentiment of lyrics. And then we're going to use Azure Key Phrases to get key phrases of lyrics. Then we're going to print it out. We're going to print, you can print the lyrics out. You can print, whatever you want. Print lyrics. Maybe you want to print all of it. You want to print title. You want to print track, name, artist, name, lyrics, sentiment, and key phrases. Maybe you want to print it all. I don't know. It's up to you. That's it. 5 steps to completing this program. And those 5 steps go right here. So, in a top-down approach, this is the top. We write each of these as functions. Okay, the print we probably don't need to write as a function, but we should write the others as functions. So I am going to go one more step further for you and write the bodies of the functions for you. So we're going to have one called get music match track, and we're going to pass in a track name and an artist name. Those go in, and what we should return somewhere down here is the track ID. That's what we're going to need. We're going to need that track ID, and you need to figure out what happens in here. That's up to you. Okay? But you're calling an API. So it's the same code every time you're calling an API. It's just setting it up. Use this to figure out how to set it up. Okay? Then you're going to need another one. Get music match lyrics. And you're going to pass in a track ID. And then this is going to return lyrics. Now, one thing I never talked about with functions, but maybe it'd be a good time because I got your ear, is this track ID might be of a certain type. It might be an int, it might be a string. The lyrics might be a string. If you want to guarantee that it returns a string, you can do this stir, like that. Say I want it to return a string. I didn't teach you that. You can also say stir track ID, which means that you must put a string in. Okay, this is strongly typing your arguments. I didn't discuss this with you. It's a newer feature in Python. You might start seeing it in other places. It's probably something that I will have to add to the class, by next year for sure. Okay, so you want to return those lyrics. All right, this is going to be def get, and then this one should be def get. All right. And then let's do another one. Def get Azure sentiment. And then to do the Azure sentiment, you're going to need your Azure key. Oh, you know what you're going to need also to do the music match? You're going to need to pass in the API key. The music match API key. To get the Azure sentiment, you're going to need to pass in the API key, the endpoint. Remember, everybody has a unique endpoint with the Azure sentiment. And you're going to need the text that you want to analyze. Okay? And I will write this one. Okay? So if you remember from the lab, this one has, you have to do a post. So you have to, you have to do this. You have to make your payload, right? This is what you're going to send the service. And it always looks like this. It's a dictionary, and it has documents, and then it has a list of documents, and we're just going to have one document, ID, and you can give it any ID you want. I'm just going to call it 1. And then it has some text that you're going to send with that document, and that is going to be this input. So if the sentiment is the Cardi B lyrics to up, that would be what's coming in here. Okay, then I am going to build my URL, and my URL is always the endpoint, which is my unique URL. And then to that, I need to add text analytics. Oh, I got to spell that right. And then version 3, and then I'm doing sentiment. The other endpoint for key phrases, you can get it out of the lab, because we did this in the lab. Then, so now I have my payload and my URL. I don't need a query string in this case, because that's not the way the Azure one works, but I do need a header. And in the header here, I need to pass in the API key. And that was, what the heck was the name of that? I might have to go dig that out of the lab. I think it was, let me go look at the lab here for a sec. Okay, I'm going to just copy it. You don't want to watch me type that. That's the header key that you need for the API key value. Right there. Now you're ready to call your request. So response, request, get, that URL, headers. Oh, I'm not doing a get, it's a post, right? Post. And then I need to pass into the body of the post my payload. So I need to say JSON format of the body, and I'm going to use payload. Response, raise for status. and then sentiment response JSON. And then I only want the sentiment part, so I'm going to return, in this case, I'm going to do some pre-extracting. I'm going to do, let me return sentiment. Okay. Okay. Now, let me, before I get in to the next one, let's just try this. Get Azure sentiment. And then you put in your API key, which I have mine somewhere. And then you put in your endpoint. So you put in your API key. You put in your endpoint. You know, it's going to look like this. You know, and then you're going to put in what you want to get the sentiment of. I am super happy. Okay, and you'll run that code, and you'll get back the sentiment data structure. Okay, and that's the way to test it. You should test all of your functions, by the way. As a matter of fact, I would encourage you to write this code somewhere else. Make sure it works, then refactor it into a function. That's actually probably an even smarter way to do it, because it's very hard to debug errors within the function. Okay, but moral of the story, you should test them. Okay, and then the last one you're going to need is def get Azure key phrases, and that's again going to need an API key and an endpoint and some text. And that's just going to return the key phrases. And in here, you will have to set that up. And it's going to be similar. You're going to have to figure all this stuff out in here. Okay? Everything that I've highlighted in there, the bottom three are the same always. Right? It's the top three that are different. Okay? Depending on the service you're calling and whatever its needs are. Okay? So you should be able to do these two easily because we did them in the lab. These two are going to take some time, but remember that all of these parameters go on the query string, right? If you look at music match, all of them go on the query string. Okay. If you look at track search, right? All these parameters that we play with here, look for up, Cardi B. All of those end up on the query string. Cardi B, up, my API key. Okay, so all those end up and format JSON, right? So those will need to be on your query string. You're going to have to do the query string, you know, and in your query string you're going to have format JSON. You're going to need to have API key. You know, and then you're going to have to figure out the rest of it. Okay, and then you won't need headers. Right? There's no thing in here that says you need headers, so you're okay with that. All right, and that's basically the gist of it. Once you get this working, make sure they work first before you even try to use them down here. Because if you use them down here, it makes no sense. Once you get them working, the process is, you know, put the artist and title in, get the track ID. If you, for some reason, don't get back a track ID, right? You don't get back a track ID, you need to say something about it. Okay? If you don't get back some lyrics, you need to say something about it, right? You don't want to just throw an error. You need to do some kind of check in there to see if you got that. That should be your very last problem that you solve, right? How do I clean it up so that it's error free? But let me show you one last time my working solution so that you can see how I handled some errors. Okay, so I just ran this one with What's Next and Drake, and it says What's Next by Drake is a mixed song about, and then here's the keywords in there. Okay, and then I'm going to put in something that I know is not in here, like song is by Drake. It says unable to find track by Drake, right? So I'm handling some errors in here. You can see my print right there. Right, I'm also handling ones where it can't get the lyrics too. For example, if it gets a track, but then it goes to try to get the lyrics and we don't get anything back. We need to handle that. But I would worry about that at the very, very last. The last thing you do is worry about that. The first thing you want to do is make sure that it works. I don't know how to spell Bieber. Okay. Hey, it's got some nice words in there, huh? Okay. Awesome. That's lyrics for you, right? Okay, that's it for this homework advice. Hope it was helpful. Bye now.